Tashchak, two global strategies, Heartland and Rimland theories. War 1 Hafford Mackinder, 1861 to 1947, and the Heartland theory. Mackinder, a British geographer, introduced the Heartland theory to explain global power dynamics and territorial control. Key ideas and timeline. 1900, the problem of Asia. Mackinder focused on the strategic significance of Asia and its surrounding regions. 1904 essay, The Geographical Pivot of History. He introduced the idea of the pivot area, which later became the Heartland. This area covered Central Eurasia, including parts of Russia, Siberia, and Eastern Europe. Physiological and historical characteristics of the pivot area. Naturally fortified by geography, mountains, deserts, and frozen seas, making it difficult to invade. Historically significant due to the dominance of the Mongol dynasty and the influence of regions like India, China, and Russia. The Moscow Basin, Siberia, and Black Sea regions were key strategic points. Key quotes. Who rules East Europe commands the Heartland. Who rules the Heartland commands the World Island. Who rules the World Island commands the world. Mackinder argued that controlling the Heartland would allow dominance over the World Island, Eurasia, and Africa, and, ultimately, global control. For example, 1917, Russia used the Heartland as a gateway to expand its power. 1919, Germany aimed to dominate Ukraine and the Heartland during World War I. 1943, Mackinder revised his theory in The Round World and the Winning of the Peace, emphasizing the strategic importance of the Heartland for post-World War II power balance. HAR2, Nicholas Spykman, 1893 to 1943, and the Rimland theory. Spykman, an American political scientist and Yale professor, developed the Rimland theory as a response and critique of Mackinder's Heartland theory. Key ideas. Rimland definition. Spykman argued that the coastal edges of Eurasia, the Rimland, were more important than the Heartland. This area included Western Europe, the Middle East, South Asia, and East Asia. Quote, who controls the Rimland rules Eurasia. Who rules Eurasia controls the destinies of the world. Comparisons with Heartland. 1. Geography. The Heartland is landlocked and relies on internal resources, while the Rimland has access to seas, trade routes, and global connectivity. 2. Power projection. The Rimland can influence both land and sea, making it strategically versatile. 3. Defense versus offense. The Heartland is a natural fortress, while the Rimland is an outward-oriented region suited for expansion. 3. Historical context and applications. Mackinder's Heartland initially focused on Russia's dominance. He believed that whoever controlled Eastern Europe, the gateway to the Heartland, could command global power. The Soviet Union's expansion after World War II reaffirmed the importance of the Heartland. Spykman's Rimland, 1944, The Geography of Peace. Spykman emphasized the Rimland's strategic importance during World War II and the Cold War. Formation of alliances like NATO, CENTO, and CETO by the United States demonstrated the Rimland's relevance. U.S. bases worldwide. Spykman's theory influenced the U.S. strategy of maintaining military and economic presence in Rimland regions. 4. Key concepts. Concept Heartland, Rimgal Empire, Russian expansion, Central Eurasia, Coastal Eurasia, orientation, inward-oriented. Historical importance, Mongol Empire, Russian expansion, European colonial empires, U.S. naval power, strategic advantage, land-based power, sea-based power. Natural features, protected by mountains, deserts, and ice, vulnerable yet versatile due to sea access. 5. Practical impacts. U.S. influence. Spykman's Rimland theory justified America's Cold War strategies, such as containment of Soviet influence through alliances and military bases. Soviet strategies. Mackinder's Heartland theory influenced Soviet policies to strengthen their dominance in Eurasia. Modern global balance. The theories continue to shape geopolitics, as seen in NATO's activities in Eastern Europe and China's Belt and Road Initiative expanding into Heartland regions. These theories help explain past and ongoing struggles for dominance over pivotal global regions. Let me know if you'd like further. Okay, Imagine a game of chess. The chessboard is the world, and the most important square in the middle is called the pivot area. Mackinder, like a smart chess player, wrote a book in 1900 called The Problem of Asia. In it, he explained why this middle square, the pivot area, was so special and dangerous for the rest of the players on the board. The pivot area and Russia. In the game, the pivot area is basically the huge land in the middle of the world, parts of Russia, Central Asia, and Siberia. Mackinder said this area was like a fortress. Why? It's surrounded by natural walls like mountains and frozen seas. It's hard for armies to attack because it's so vast and landlocked. Now, imagine Russia as the player who controlled most of this middle square. Mackinder was worried because Russia had, 1, a strong army. They could defend the pivot area easily. 2, a growing network of railways. They could quickly move supplies and soldiers anywhere in the pivot area. If Russia grew even stronger, they could expand outward like a big wave and take over other important areas of the world. Why is it a problem? Mackinder thought this middle square was dangerous because if one powerful country, like Russia, controlled it, they could control the resources. The pivot area has tons of minerals, forests, and land for farming. 2, dominate the world island. If you control the pivot area, you can influence Europe, Asia, and Africa. The 3 continents Mackinder called the world island. 3, block others. Countries like Britain, which relied on their navy and trade routes, couldn't compete because the pivot area didn't need the sea. Why Mackinder cared. Back in 1900, Britain and Russia were like 2 chess players competing to be the most powerful. Mackinder was warning Britain, watch out for Russia! If they dominate the pivot area, they could control the whole chessboard. What happened later? In real life, Mackinder's ideas became very important in World War I, World War II, and even the Cold War. Countries fought to stop any one nation, like Russia or later the Soviet Union, from taking over the pivot area because they didn't want them to become unstoppable. So, the problem of Asia is like a guidebook for understanding why controlling the middle of the world, this pivot area, was the key to global power. Let me know if the frontier theory, Spykman, and the Heartland theory, Mackinder, are 2 important ideas in geopolitics. They explain how different parts of the world are strategically important and how controlling certain areas could lead to global dominance. Let's break them down step by step. 1. Centers of power versus center of energy. In frontier theory, the peripheral states around Eurasia, like coastal regions and marginal lands, known as the Rimland, are considered the centers of power. These areas have access to seas and trade routes, making them crucial for controlling Eurasia. In Heartland theory, the central region of Eurasia, the Heartland, located in Russia and Central Asia, is seen as the center of energy. It's landlocked, resource-rich, and geographically protected, making it the key to dominating the world. Step 2. Rules of power. According to frontier theory, Spykman said, whoever controls the marginal lands, Rimland, rules Eurasia. Whoever rules Eurasia controls the fate of the world. This theory highlights the importance of controlling the coastal areas and surrounding regions. According to Heartland theory, Mackinder said, whoever rules Eastern Europe controls the Heartland. Whoever controls the Heartland rules the world island, Eurasia plus Africa. Whoever controls the world island rules the world. This theory focuses on the central region as the ultimate key to global domination. Now 3. Natural barriers. In frontier theory, the natural barriers around the Rimland, such as oceans and mountains, are considered crucial for protection and maintaining dominance. Example, oceans act as buffers to protect coastal states. In Heartland theory, Mackinder thought the natural barriers of the Heartland, like mountains and ice, were weak and could be easily crossed, making the Heartland vulnerable to invasion. 4. Relationships between states. Frontier theory emphasizes the importance of maintaining good relations with peripheral states. Spykman believed alliances in the Rimland were essential for global power. Example, the U.S. forming alliances with NATO countries and Asian allies reflects this approach. Heartland theory doesn't focus on relationships between states. Instead, it focuses on controlling the central region, Heartland, through dominance rather than alliances. #5. Conflict. In frontier theory, Spykman avoided mentioning direct conflict. Instead, he focused on building alliances and controlling the Rimland through diplomacy and strategy. Example: the US avoids war in many cases, but strengthens allies in key Rimland areas. In Heartland theory, Mackinder explicitly mentions a conflict between the Heartland and sea powers. He believed the Heartland's land power would always compete with naval powers, e.g., Britain or the US. 6. Industrial areas. According to frontier theory, the western side of the Ural Mountains, closer to Europe, is seen as a major industrial region because of its proximity to trade routes and resources. According to Heartland theory, the eastern side of the Ural Mountains, closer to Siberia, is seen as an industrial region due to its natural resources. 7. Siberia. Spykman believed that Siberia could only be developed if the climate changed, which he saw as unlikely because of its extreme cold and isolation. Mackinder, however, saw Siberia as a land of potential. Its vast resources and size could make it an important part of the Heartland if developed. Why it matters. These theories have greatly influenced global politics. For example, the Heartland theory inspired geopolitics during World War I and II. Countries like Germany and Russia competed for control over Eastern Europe and the Heartland. The frontier theory became the foundation of U.S. strategy during the Cold War. The U.S. built alliances, e.g. NATO, CITO, around the Rimland to contain Soviet power. Conclusion. Both theories highlight different strategies for controlling the world. Heartland theory focuses on the central region land dominance. Frontier theory focuses on coastal areas, sea and trade dominance. Today, Spykman's frontier theory is considered more relevant due to globalization, trade routes, and U.S. defense policies. However, Mackinder's Heartland theory remains important for understanding the geopolitical struggles in Eurasia. Short answer questions. 2. What do you mean by the world island? The world island is a term introduced by Mackinder to describe the combined landmass of Eurasia and Africa. It is considered the largest and most significant area of the world due to its size, population, and resources. Mackinder believed whoever controlled the world island could dominate global politics. 3. What does the heart mean? The heart refers to the Heartland, the central region of Eurasia described by Mackinder. It is landlocked, rich in resources, and strategically positioned. Mackinder saw it as the key to global dominance. 4. Mention the size of the heart. The Heartland covers a vast area stretching from the Volga River in the west to Siberia in the east, and from the Arctic Ocean in the north to the Himalayas in the south. It includes parts of modern-day Russia, Central Asia, and neighboring regions. Sarstov 5. What are the subdivisions of the continent? Mackinder divided the world into 3 major regions. 1. Heartland, pivot area, the central core of Eurasia. 2. Inner crescent, marginal lands, the surrounding coastal areas of Eurasia, like Western Europe, the Middle East, South Asia, and East Asia. 3. Outer crescent, islands, areas beyond Eurasia, such as the Americas, Australia, and Africa. 6. What do you mean by marginal crescent moon? The marginal crescent, also called the inner crescent, refers to the coastal areas surrounding the Heartland. These regions include Western Europe, the Middle East, South Asia, and East Asia. They are important for their access to oceans and trade routes. 7. What do you mean by small area? A small area refers to a specific, localized region within a larger geopolitical context. For example, a small area in Mackinder's theory could be a strategic part of the Heartland or a region with significant resources or population. 8. State the main points of Mackinder's heart theory. 1. The Heartland is the key to controlling Eurasia and the world. 2. Eastern Europe is the gateway to the Heartland. 3. Natural barriers, mountains and ice, make the Heartland difficult to invade. 4. The Heartland is rich in resources and has strategic importance. 5. Mackinder's famous phrase, "Who rules Eastern Europe commands the Heartland," Who rules the Heartland commands the world island. Who rules the world island commands the world. 9. Indicate the location of Spykman's marginal land ring. Spykman's Rimland, or marginal land ring, includes the coastal areas of Eurasia, Western Europe, e.g. France, Germany, Middle East, e.g. Turkey, Iran, South Asia, e.g. India, East Asia, e.g. China, Japan, Korea. 10. Name any 4 states located in the desert. 1. Saudi Arabia, includes the Arabian Desert. 2. Egypt, part of the Sahara Desert. 3. Australia, includes the Great Victoria Desert. 4. United States, includes the Mojave Desert. 11. What is meant by collision zone theory? The collision zone theory refers to areas where tectonic plates collide, creating mountain ranges, earthquakes, and other geological features. Examples include the Himalayas, collision of the Indian and Eurasian plates; the Andes Mountains, collision of the South American and Nazca plates. Geopolitically, these zones can act as barriers or natural borders between regions. These answers simplify and explain the concept. Part 1, Spykman's frontier theory and related questions. 12. Outline the main idea of Spykman's frontier theory. Spykman's Rimland theory, also known as the frontier theory, emphasizes the importance of coastal areas, rimlands surrounding the Heartland. It counters Mackinder's Heartland theory by arguing, control over the rimland, the marginal lands of Eurasia, determines global power. The rimland acts as a buffer zone between the Heartland and the outer seas. The rimland includes strategically important regions like Western Europe, the Middle East, South Asia, and East Asia. Spykman famously stated, "Who controls the rimland rules Eurasia. Who rules Eurasia controls the destinies of the world." 13. Mention the subdivisions of Mackinder's isotropic region and describe the pivot region. Subdivisions of Mackinder's isotropic region, Mama 1. Heartland, pivot area, Central Eurasia, considered the center of global power. 2. Inner Crescent, marginal lands, coastal regions around Eurasia, such as Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. 3. Outer Crescent, areas beyond Eurasia, such as the Americas, Africa, and Australia. Description of the pivot region. The pivot region, or Heartland, is the landlocked core of Eurasia. It is rich in resources, including minerals and fertile lands, geographically shielded by natural barriers like mountains and ice, making it difficult to invade. Centrally located, allowing potential control over trade and communication routes. Mackinder argued that dominance over this region could lead to control over the world. 14. Discuss the characteristics and dimensions of the pivot region in Heartland theory. Characteristics of the pivot region. 1. Central location. Located at the heart of Eurasia, it is a strategic hub. 2. Natural barriers. Surrounded by mountains, deserts, and ice, making it defensively strong. 3. Resource richness. Contains vast natural resources like oil, gas, and fertile land. 4. Limited access to seas. It is landlocked with no direct access to oceans. 5. Historical significance. Historically, it has been the base of powerful empires like the Mongol Empire. Dimensions of the pivot region. Extends from the Volga River in the west to Siberia in the east. Bounded by the Arctic Ocean in the north and the Himalayas in the south. Includes modern-day Russia, Central Asia, and parts of Eastern Europe. 15. Explain control of the pivot region as given in Mackinder's theory. Mackinder argued that controlling the pivot region, Heartland, provides the ability to dominate Eurasia and, consequently, the world. Key points include 1. Eastern Europe as a gateway. Control of Eastern Europe opens access to the Heartland. 2. Strategic advantage. The region's central location allows influence over Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. 3. Resources. Rich natural resources in the Heartland give economic and military strength. 4. Geopolitical dominance. Mackinder's famous statement summarizes the concept, "Who rules Eastern Europe commands the Heartland. Who rules the Heartland commands the world island. Who rules the world island commands the world." 16. Review Mackinder's Heartland theory. Strengths. 1. Emphasized the importance of geography in Geopolitics. 2. Highlighted the strategic significance of Eurasia. 3. Influenced global strategies during the World Wars and the Cold War. Weaknesses. 1. Overlooked the role of maritime powers. 2. Underestimated technological advancements like air power and nuclear weapons, which reduce the significance of landlocked regions. 3. Critics argue it is outdated due to globalization and interdependence among nations. Mackinder's theory remains a foundation of geopolitical thought, but has been modified to suit modern realities. In Part 2, we will analyze Spykman's frontier theory in more depth and compare it with Mackinder's Heartland theory. Not our Part 2, analysis of Spykman's frontier theory and comparison with Mackinder's Heartland theory. 17. Briefly discuss Mackinder's Heartland theory. Overview. Mackinder's Heartland theory, 1904, emphasizes the strategic importance of the Heartland, Central Eurasia. He argued that control of the Heartland leads to dominance over the world island, Eurasia and Africa, and ultimately the entire world. Key features. Heartland is geographically protected by natural barriers, mountains, ice, deserts. Its location makes it a powerful geopolitical center. Control of Eastern Europe is critical to accessing the Heartland. Significance. This theory influenced policies like containment during the Cold War and continues to shape geopolitical thought. 18. Analyze Spykman's frontier theory. Overview. Spykman's frontier Rimland theory, 1944, counters Mackinder by emphasizing the importance of coastal regions around Eurasia. He argued that control of the Rimland, not the Heartland, determines global dominance. Key features. 1. Rimland as a buffer zone. The Rimland protects the Heartland from sea powers. 2. Access to oceans. The Rimland's coastal regions provide access to global trade and naval power. 3. Strategic areas. Western Europe, the Middle East, South Asia, and East Asia are crucial zones. Significance. Influenced U.S. foreign policy, including NATO and the containment of the Soviet Union. Spykman's theory explains the importance of controlling maritime choke points like the Strait of Hormuz and the Malacca Strait. 19. What do you mean by wilderness? Discuss the influence of the frontier theory on U.S. foreign and defense policy. Wilderness. In geopolitical terms, wilderness refers to underdeveloped or sparsely populated regions that are strategically important, such as the Rimland. Influence on U.S. foreign and defense policy. 1. Containment strategy. The U.S. adopted Spykman's ideas during the Cold War to counter Soviet influence in the Rimland regions. 2. Military alliances. NATO, SEATO, and CENTO were established to maintain influence over key Rimland areas. 3. Naval presence. The U.S. has established military bases in Rimland countries to ensure access to trade routes and resources. 4. Modern implications. Policies like the Indo-Pacific Strategy and alliances like AUKUS reflect Spykman's emphasis on Rimland control. 20. Review Spykman's frontier theory. Strengths. 1. Recognizes the importance of coastal areas in global power dynamics. 2. Highlights the role of sea power and trade routes in geopolitical strategies. 3. Accurately predicted the rise of maritime dominance in the 20th and 21st centuries. Weaknesses. 1. Underestimates the importance of landlocked regions and the Heartland. 2. Overlooks the influence of air power and modern technology. 3. Some critics argue it is overly focused on military dominance. Conclusion. Spykman's theory remains relevant due to the ongoing importance of Rimland regions in global politics, especially in maritime and trade strategies. 21. Explain the difference between the frontier theory and the Heartland theory. Heartland theory, Mackinder, frontier theories around Eurasia as the key to strategies. Focuses on the Heartland, Central Eurasia, as the key to global dominance. Focuses on the Rimland, coastal areas around Eurasia, as the key to global power. Who controls Eastern Europe commands the Heartland. Who controls the Rimland rules Eurasia. Emphasizes natural barriers like mountains and deserts around the Heartland. Highlights the strategic importance of maritime access and trade routes. Landlocked regions are central to power. Coastal regions are central to power. Advocates for dominance through control of land power. Emphasizes the importance of sea power. Relevant during the era of land-based empires, e.g. Russia, Mongolia. Relevant during the age of maritime dominance and global trade. Conclusion. Both theories have strengths and weaknesses, but they provide complementary perspectives on global power. Modern geopolitics incorporates aspects of both, balancing the importance of land and sea.